you guys seen this? Insomniac have apparently realised that they're getting some flack for changing Overstrike to Fuse. They've been taking flack for a year. I don't know why it's suddenly.
Yeah.
They've suddenly realised.
The thing is, I mean, we never saw any gameplay of Overstrike. Like, we only ever saw one trailer that looked kind of cool and had a really good sound. I think the soundtrack made that trailer. You know, that tick, 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 boom.
Oh, the Hive usually make most things good.
Na 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 na. It's in my head now. Na 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 na. And that really worked. And it was like, it was basically, that resembled my brain fart pitch for Army of Two.
Basically, yeah.
That trailer is what that was.
I was talking to you about it, wasn't I, John? Saying how they were complaining about the fact that it felt a bit too campy. And I think that was exactly what we wanted.
Yeah, we wanted a co-op game that was
The Incredibles.
fun to play.
They said The Incredibles
also,
was a bad thing. I was like, what? What?
Yeah, because being like Pixar is a bad thing.
It's bad.
It'd be bad to be like Pixar. Wouldn't it be awful to like?
I'd hate to have
be
all that money.
accessible to everyone and yet also engage a mature fan base at the same time.
Yeah.
Does it really need? It doesn't. I mean, the thing is, mature. They don't really need to be like super gory, serious soldier games to engage.
No, because that's
immature.
immature. That's incredibly immature when they do that.
Yeah.
It's like saying, "Oh, to be mature, we have to swear all the time and say nasty things and show people getting murdered really close up." That's not mature.
Like, have you seen this rape scene coming up? We're immature. Are you?
Who says that?
You. Well,
is that Metro?
It's a bit Metro.
Is that Metro? I really love the Angry Joe review for that.
It's true.
I love that. Just him going, yeah, this is this bleak post-apocalyptic game where you're scraping for survival. Like, every day is a struggle for spoiled food, and you've just got to experience the ass and titties. There's just like 2 minutes of just lap dance footage.
It's quite disconcerting. It's quite disconcerting. Let's kick this mother off. Hello and welcome to the Game Buzz, a regular Game Buzz this week. I'm Matt and I'm joined here once again by Jonathan Lester.
Ooh yeah.
Ooh yeah. You've been getting stuck into that this week. There was a review of that. Well, an early review of that on site. It's massive. Check it out, but don't purchase one based on it yet because, well, no, there's no games we can really.
Yeah, cool. I could have explained all that, but yeah, for sure. Check it out.
And Carl Phillips.
I can't actually match that. Ooh yeah. So
go on, try.
I'm just going for the complete opposite.
I think. Try it. Ooh yeah.
I can't. My voice is not that deep. I can't do it.
Ooh yeah.
Ooh yeah. No.
Ooh yeah. Boogie.
I could do that.
I think you just did.
There we go. Done.
And
moving on.
Boogie.
And we're all here, so Game Buzz time, and I think we better kick off with a look over all of the little dribblings, or some of the louder dribblings that have emerged post Microsoft's Xbox reveal. Do make sure you check out our previous Game Buzz, which was us sort of very tiredly after the Xbox reveal, just giving our immediate thoughts. But yes, there have been a couple of things to come out since then. Sort of.
But not really.
Microsoft has somehow managed to create even more questions, be very, very, very non-committal, and give half answers wherever they possibly can.
Yes,
even
they might
when
have actually
it would
been
be easier to say yes or no.
They might have been better served by just having Larry, Major Nelson Herb just sitting there in a t-shirt saying "Wait till E3" and just continually live streaming that. Or like, and then people could Skype him and ask him questions, and he could just point to his T-shirt.
That would have been a better reveal. I feel.
Yeah,
I've enjoyed that more than the actual Xbox reveal.
Yeah, that would have been great. I mean, if that's all it was, just a big banner saying "Wait till E3," and then
we could all go home.
We could just read the fascinating Wired article instead, and yeah, exactly. All go home and like actually play some games on the current consoles that we have that let us do that.
I like how they've said that the Xbox 360, there's still going to be kicking around, obviously, because the Xbox One doesn't have backwards compatibility. So
yeah, that was
the ecosystem.
Again, he probably that was Phil Spencer who said that, and what he probably should have just said was, yeah, so you want to play Xbox 360 games? hashtag deal with it. That's what should be on the t-shirt. They should all just be wearing t-shirts with hashtag deal with it on it, and then wait till E3. They can just point to one or the other. It'd be perfect.
Do you think, because obviously MCV rounded up a bunch of UK retail representatives this week, and they said obviously it's pointing towards E3, and that perhaps Microsoft had been unfairly slammed over the reveal event, and the pre-orders were extremely positive.
Yes, that's right. That's an awesome ringtone, by the way.
Yeah.
That's kick-ass. I might actually ring you in a sec just to enjoy some more of that, to be honest. Were they unfairly slammed? Perhaps. I mean, they only had an hour, and the problem is they're locked into releasing an entertainment system, not a games console. So they had to do a reveal that dwelt on the sort of mainstream living room appeal. You know, I still buy that. I get that. I understand that. But it was absolutely hopeless for gamers who actually wanted to know about the next console. And I don't think they're being unfairly slammed about it. I think they've been given a wake-up call that actually they should have perhaps worked a bit harder on a reveal that was inclusive rather than alienating their core audience.
Yeah,
the audience who this console will actually be built on. Let's make no bones about this. I don't think anyone who just wants to buy the Xbox 360 as a media center has pre-ordered one. I can practically guarantee you that.
Yeah. I said it before in the cast that we did after the reveal. It's a case of waiting for E3, which is what they're basically saying now. Because they're saying it's all going to be all about the games, and we've even had a quote today saying that I can't remember who said it, but along the lines of that the Xbox reveal is going to kill Sony. That's the latest bold claim.
Yes.
And right now, I don't believe that is possible, but I mean, we've seen worse. Sony could come out and go, actually, it was all a lie. We were just calling a bluff. We just wanted to see what Xbox were going to do.
Yeah, the reason why we didn't reveal what our console looks like is that in fact there isn't one.
Yeah, surprise! It's actually the Sony Vio, the new laptop. Yeah. So I mean, I think it's the case of just waiting and seeing. But Microsoft there seems to be more bark than bite at the moment, and I want that to go the other way around. I want to see some kind of... I want to know what they're doing with DRM to begin with, because there's been a whole bunch of faff to do with that over the last week, mainly because we don't know what's going on. And they keep changing that. Well, they keep on saying this is the official stance and then coming out with other stuff that completely contradicts the stuff they've previously said.
No, well, their official stance at the moment, I think we should probably get on to DRM, really, because there are two types of DRM that the Xbox One might have. There is pre-owned game regulation and terrifying Kinect. Always on, spying on you.
No. It's not going to be snooping. Apparently, it's not going to be snooping. Apparently, you can opt out of that, or rather, opt into the snooping.
Now, you see, the thing is, okay, I mean, obviously, everyone with half a brain is going to opt out of that. But I don't really get how many useful metrics developers can really get out of looking at people in their lounge. Really? You can't get fantastically useful. You can't inform game design based on, hey, look, that guy doesn't know we're watching. Look what he's... Oh, God, what's he doing? No, what's he doing?
Well, yeah, it wouldn't necessarily be for game design. It'd be all for adverts. It'd be like, wow, lounge pants are coming back in. We should
exactly.
focus on putting lounge pants adverts right up there.
Blood flow in his face has gone through the roof. Man, he really wants those pants.
The worrying thing was...
Now, looking away from the advert. Pause the advert until he looks back.
That's the thing. Like they've tied it in. There was that patent that emerged, which suggested they're sort of targeting interactive television and, more frighteningly, interactive adverts. So perhaps if you don't sort of strike an impressive Old Spice pose, you won't be able to get back to the content that you want to see. I mean. Obviously that is just the wild imaginings of a very cynical man, but it's possible.
Yeah, so we the fact is I don't think they're going to I can't imagine Microsoft are going to be sitting there and actively spying into people's rooms. I don't think there's going to be a huge amount of actual real snooping going on.
No.
But yeah, the visual DRM side of things means that they could potentially sell you a TV show if, say, it only like a maximum of 2 people or 4 people can watch it. And if it detects 6 people, it will say buy a bigger license, for example. So that could potentially suck if they go down that route. That patent is a couple of years old, and patents frequently don't translate into products, so we'll have to wait and see. The other kind of DRM, however, is the much maligned sort of anti-used game measures that have been rumored for years and years and years and are probably happening in some form. The problem is that Microsoft's official stance on this at the moment is that they don't have an official stance on this at the moment, but they totally will have one, and it's going to be super informative.
And supportive of the used game market, apparently.
Yes, the Xbox will support used games in the sense that it won't. But what it will play used games. And currently, it looks like, from all the reports that we've pieced together, all the corroborating reports that we've pieced together, essentially that, yes, games will be tethered to your account, but if you take your pre-owned game to a participating retailer, they will be able to take that game off your account and register it as a pre-owned game and then sell it on to someone else who can register it to their account. However, if you lend out a game to someone else, you will probably have to buy a license. That currently seems to be the state of play. I would be pleasantly surprised if they just decided to cancel the whole thing, but I can't see that happen.
The scary part of all of that is, well, from what I can tell, is there's meant to. I'm not quite. Do you understand the whole thing behind the pre-owned tax that was mentioned? Because I'm not quite getting the whole idea of that. Because I know that the idea is that when people buy, you buy the game new, then you trade it in, and then it's labeled as pre-owned, but they're charging the same amount as if it was new because the data's all in the cloud anyway, and then the publishers get a slice of that. I'm not quite sure what's exactly going on.
What will happen is you won't, if you buy a sort of officially pre-owned game, a game that has been traded in sort of through a retailer, you won't have to pay on top of that. You'll get it, you'll sync it with your account. You won't have to pay anything extra on top of that.
But it will still be as if you were paying for a full price, brand new game.
Yes, it will. And some reports even suggest that retailers will effectively be locked into selling pre-owned games at 10% less than the RRP. That's the wiggle room apparently they might have been given. And the a figure of 35 quid came up, which a lot of people assumed was the amount you'd have to pay for a license if you sort of got lent a game or something.
Yeah.
But apparently that's the amount the retailer might have to pay Microsoft and the game publisher when they sell it on.
Now, of course, this is all unconfirmed, but
yes,
that is, I mean, that would not be ideal. I mean, that would effectively really kill off pre-owned.
It would absolutely kill off pre-owned, because if you can only buy games that are 10% less, if you can only buy games that are 10% less and they're already pre-owned, there's no point. There's absolutely no point. And then, of course, there's no real point buying them boxed, because you can't really do a huge amount with them. So hopefully, I mean, Microsoft and Sony are going to try and push their digital platforms and try and make those competitive.
Well, we've seen the community massively lobbying Sony to say, you see all these reports? Please do none of the things in these reports, please. And to be fair, Sony haven't detailed their approach to used games, so they may be implementing something similar. They just said that you'd be able to play used games on the PS4.
Yeah.
They Sony have been any detail about it though.
Sony have been very, very canny actually, because as you said, Kazurai said, "Oh yeah, you can play used games on the PS4," and then said, "Oh yeah, we're totally going to quote do the right thing." The right thing, of course, being the most relative term that there is, probably, because who's it right for? Will it be right for the consumer, or will it be right for Sony and their third-party partners? That's a no-brainer, frankly. But yeah, they've been playing their cards very close to their chest, and you'd have assumed by now that if the PS4 doesn't regulate used games in any way, they would have conveniently scheduled an interview with someone like GameSpot or IGN just to chat about the PS4, and then they'd, very casually just drop in, oh, of course, you can freely play, trade, lend games, whatever. Just drop that in there subtly, and of course that would be front page global news within 30 minutes, and they would have crushed a lot of people who are on the fence at the moment, and a lot of apologists who are really trying to find a little sort of ray of light in Microsoft's blithering at the moment. But they haven't done that.
Well, the thing is, though,
definitely would have done that.
Well, you say that, but Microsoft haven't actually announced their they haven't completely officially said this is what we're doing. And I imagine that a lot of things, actually Microsoft have come out and said our policies aren't set in stone right now.
Yeah, that is their official policy.
And I doubt whether Sony will necessarily follow suit until Microsoft do that. They might preempt them at E3 with that, just to go, oh, by the way, we're announcing definitively you can just play used games as you always have. Whereas they might be looking to sort of not play their own hand too early, perhaps.
Do you think that they're just going to wait
I want to
until
believe that.
the other rival shows their hand first? So when we get to June 10th and the reveal presentations, the morning Microsoft one will in fact last all day. And the Sony one will keep running as well. They'll just keep sort of spinning it out and sort of keeping an eye on the other one. It'll last for days and days.
Bam,
it'll be like
bam, keep going.
It'll be like House of the Flying Daggers. Like the seasons will change, the console release dates will come and go. The consoles will come out. We won't even know if they play used games or not. We'll put them in, and the console will just explode. Yeah. So look, I mean, this is kind of non-news at the moment, but it's all we got.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we may not find out about this at E3. E3 isn't necessarily the platform for. In their presentations, I doubt we'll find out about this.
Sorry, I just find that. Yeah, E3 presentations are not the platform for information. No,
they're not. They never have been. Microsoft have never.
I know. I just find that funny.
Sony's ones are always full of people cheering senseless acts of mindless violence in games that should know better. So, yeah, I'm sure a lot of interesting stuff will come out of interviews and comments and stuff like that. And to be honest, this E3 actually my eyes are going to be on Nintendo, because I think with all of this kerfuffle going on, if Nintendo come out strong and say, look, we got a box that plays games, Mario and Zelda games, new Mario and Zelda games.
Yeah.
Then that would be kind of awesome.
Pretty much. Basically, if they say anything other than please wait or please understand, I think they will win E3.
Although they'll come out and say, you already know, you can buy a Wii U right now, and there have been deals as low as 150 quid, and you can already play pre-owned games on it. Please understand.
Wink. Yeah.
I honestly don't know why they haven't put out a little teaser trailer that is literally just you can play used games on our console.
Yeah, I mean, admittedly, that might make it slightly less even less exciting for developers and publishers who'll probably want to shack up with the consoles who'll kill off used games faster. But damn, I mean, I can play games on my Wii U and get them pre-owned on my Wii U, and that shouldn't be a unique selling point, but it might be. It might be in 2 weeks' time.
I worry about the knock-on effect on sort of first week sales that'll happen if you nix the pre-owned market, and if Microsoft bring in this sort of horrible sort of threshold on retailers for the prices they can set. Because and this will affect their timed exclusives as well. I mean, because if you end up not giving consumers cheaper options, because that's really what it's all about. Pre-owned games cost less than new games.
Yeah.
That people are just going to wait longer. They're going to wait for depreciation. You're not going to see. You might see fewer sort of new sales, and in the end, people are just going to wait.
Yeah, I personally think that if all this comes to pass, they've missed an opportunity to actually work with retail, because you know what, I like the idea of retailers giving back a little bit to the publisher.
Yeah.
Well, to the developer. I would like to see all of that money go to the developer. That is what I would like to see. I like that in theory. You know, that's how it should work. They should go to GameStop and Game. CEX probably wouldn't, but you know, so all the major retailers, and say, look, you know, just give us a cut. It doesn't have to be big, but it'll all add up, and it will be a nice statement of intent, and everyone will get paid. We'll have this little revenue stream coming in as well. Because let's face it, I mean, you know, the tails for buying new games kind of droop fairly quickly, so it's not as if they'd be losing a huge amount by doing this. And everyone would get their money, and we'd be able to buy games for less, and retailers would be able to, you know, kind of stay in business. So this is, I really hope they can come to some sort of compromise here. There must be some middle ground between absolutely none of the money going to the developer and publisher and forcing retailers to pay 35 quid every time they sell a pre-owned game. There has to be a middle ground there. So hopefully Sony can find it.
Hopefully so. Let's move away from the Xbox One now and on to the thing. Well, actually, because we were expecting two pieces of interesting news on the day of the Xbox reveal. The Xbox reveal itself, and also, potentially, to find out what was inside Peter Molyneux's cube. We have to wait a few extra days for that, but we do now know!
Yay!
What's at the core of Curiosity? Well, actually, no, that's a lie. we don't really know. No one really knows. But a man called Brian...
Praise the Brian.
Brian, a winner called Brian,
will become the god of gods in Project Goddess
for a bit,
for some wishy-washy space of time, whatever that means.
Yeah, and he'll get a sort of kickback from sales for a while, and he'll be able to stamp his morals. He'll be able to influence the game with his morals until he's overthrown by another player.
Yeah.
So there's been a really interesting reaction to this, because I must admit I saw this happen. I texted both of you immediately, partly because Carl, you totally called it in a previous Game Buzz. That, you know,
I don't know how.
Amazed. I feel kind of maybe we should burn you, because I kind of fear your mystical powers.
Or pimp out your brain, because clearly
I don't like either of these ideas.
Are stealing your ideas. Probably not, but they are, but probably not.
Yeah, so let's take Carl's brain. Yeah, so a lot of people kind of, and myself still, I'm finding it hard to fully form an opinion on this yet, because on the one hand, Curiosity was always billed as this exciting experiment, you know? And now it turns out the experiment was, will people tap a cube for hours and spend a whole bunch of money on a viral advertising campaign for a game they might not be interested in? And at the time that Curiosity came out, might not have even happened if the Kickstarter campaign wasn't successful.
And the answer's yes.
The answer's yes. So
people will do
hypothesis proved. Well done. So that whole side of things I felt fell down. But I think you've got to be realistic about this. Like, what could Curiosity have actually put in the middle of that cube? You know, what could have realistically been in there? I mean, as I've said before, I mean, I kind of assumed that the inner camera on the iPhone or the iPad had come on and display the winner's face and project it with, the prize was inside you all along, or some stupid mumbo jumbo like that. You know, it was never going to contain the cure for cancer or solve world peace or something. So actually giving someone a bit of money and letting them influence a game in development, that's a substantial thing. That is a thing, at least. So I guess that's kind of good. I guess that's a bit of a win.
No, I completely agree with you, and I think like it's quite an exciting opportunity. It's a completely vague opportunity at this point. And sort of, I sort of theorised that, well, aside from picking Carl's brain, the 22 Cans dev team might have just gotten drunk the night before and gone, shit, we still don't have anything life changing. We have this game. Let's put him in the game. And it is quite a. I imagine that would be quite a life-changing experience. It's certainly a unique experience. It's not something you can just immediately pigeonhole and say, okay, we're going to ship you off to a nice place of the world for a week, or give you a boatload of cash, which they probably don't have because they needed to kickstart a game. So, like, it's curious. It's a curious prize.
Yeah, and I don't know. I can appreciate there's a lot of different points of view out there, and I still feel a bit like I would still feel a bit betrayed if I got into it, if I really got into Curiosity and invested in it as some sort of almost sort of noble venture, an experiment into something that was more than just a viral advertising campaign that didn't explicitly say that it was a viral advertising campaign. But yeah. Fair play to them actually experimenting with a new and exciting business model, like a way of funding a game without sort of violating us with horrible pre-orders and probably loads of terrible DLC down the line and stuff like that. Good on them. And yeah, I mean, the only thing the only slight thing I worry about is if something like this comes along again, if some interesting free-to-play project comes along again, do you think people might say, not going to do it this time? There's just going to be an advert in the middle?
Well, the thing is, you never know, and that was the thing, is that was the risk we always ran with Curiosity, because it could have been shit. It could have been like life changing is another fairly relative term. Sort of like everything you do is potentially changes your life in a very literal sense, I suppose. So I think it's rather open to interpretation, and the people getting angry are the ones that invested lots of money into Curiosity. Maybe that was the point.
Yeah, but I think as well, a lot of people, it won't matter a lot of people, because in the most pretentious thing I've ever said, I mean, it wasn't really about the destination for most people, actually. The fact that there was something in the middle of the cube was actually kind of secondary to like discussing all those cool images and this sort of symbology on the cube with other people on forums or over the water cooler. It was secondary to, like, I saw a lot of comments and heard from a lot of people who sort of left Curiosity running in their lounge and all their family got involved and all worked together on making fun little pictures on it,
Yeah.
and watching how that artwork sort of evolved over the course of, well, let's face it, 15 seconds, because the cube didn't update in real time, and you'd work on a work of art only for it to just be completely instantly destroyed before anyone could see it. But people enjoyed the journey. People enjoyed just being a part of it. And a lot of people, even some people who maybe spent a lot of money or even a bit of money, will actually feel like it was time well spent, and fair play to them, I think.
Agreed. Well, I think we're running out of time, but a few little quick things. The online pass is dead.
Boom! And they're taking, and EA are declawing it as well. They officially said that not only is the online pass dead going forward, but they're also retroactively making all online passes and even DLC content, even the $10 DLC content, like the Dragon Age stuff, they're reducing to absolutely free. As many people, including ourselves, have already pointed out, this isn't entirely altruistic. The overarching strategy isn't entirely altruistic, because, of course, they're looking at microtransactions and are probably going to turn the servers off tomorrow.
Yeah,
but they didn't have to do this. They didn't actually have to remove all these online passes just because they're going to be getting rid of them going forward. So it's kind of nice, I guess. Although, we look forward to years and years of microtransactions, locked pre-owned regulation on next-gen consoles, possibly, and more of the same.
It doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be like that. And I really hope against hope that they use this as a kind of springboard towards, and indeed the next generation, a springboard towards not a fresh start, but EA will never get a better chance until the next generation comes along
That
to really sort of become a force for good. I don't want to put it as simply as that, but you kind of know what I mean.
Slightly hyperbolic, but yes. I mean, thing is, they started out trying to be a force for good. They were a collection of developers. They're called Electronic Arts. They were a collection of developers who got together. You know, they're all about furthering the art of video games. They're all about furthering the medium itself. That's why they were set up back in so many years ago, and they've kind of lost sight of that, perhaps. Definitely.
But just positive incentivizing rather than, and actually this goes industry wide, and this is why so many people have reacted to the Xbox One stuff badly, because it's negative. It's negative management rather than positive incentivizing. And that's what Project $10 was a great idea, and worked fantastically for Dragon Age, really did. And then you fucked it up, EA, by flipping it on its head, so you were only pushing the negative side of things, and that just don't do that going forward. Microtransactions can be good. They can be positive, and they don't have to impinge on design or a game's experience. I just really hope, like, even actually Dead Space 3 did it fairly well. Or it didn't hurt. So yeah,
I'm still not sold on the concept of selling a full-priced game at full RRP and then putting microtransactions in there as well. But we'll have to see what happens in that going forward. I mean, the next-gen consoles are going to support actual freemium games as well, and cut-price games, episodic games. So that's pretty cool.
Agreed. One final thing, Shadow of the Eternals. I just want to touch on this because we were talking about it before we started recording today. Unlikely to come out if the Kickstarter fails, which is interesting because they'd originally said they were going to explore a whole bunch of sort of publishing avenues when they started the crowdfunding on their own site. Then it jumped to Kickstarter, and now it won't be happening if that fails, probably.
And which I'm afraid is looking very likely because there's currently 18 days to go. Their target is 1.5 million all told, 1.35 million on Kickstarter, and they've currently raised 115,000. So the problem is that, basically, we're not buying it. And we're not buying it for three main reasons. First of all, a lot of people, actually, one of the biggest concerns about this is because it's episodic. Like, if you look at the comments and you look at the at people who are not engaging with the crowdfunding campaign, explaining why, they're saying that asking for 1.5 mil for a game that's going to be delivered in dribs and drabs and they won't get the full experience for ages, sinking into this amount of money for a game that should start making its own money once the first episode comes out is perhaps a bit too much of a big ask. It's perhaps asking too much. However, a lot of the more combative feedback is being aimed squarely, as we've said a few times before, at Silicon Knights and its ex-CEO. Now, look, we've ragged on Diak many a time in our podcasts and on site. And you know what? He's sort of refuted a few of the more sort of perhaps sensationalist claims about A, being difficult to work with, B, sort of diverting funds away from things like X-Men Destiny to work on pitches that didn't turn out and bad business practices. But the fact remains, their past form is not good.
No.
Like, they peaked on the GameCube, and ever since then, they have been crap.
in short, yeah. I mean, we look at it. When he did that response video, which was basically towards the feedback that we've just been talking about, he addressed things like the X-Men Destiny fund, like diverting everything, but he didn't address the whole Epic source code thing. And I think that's what really annoyed me. It's the fact that he was there and he was saying, I'm being open, I'm being honest, I'm letting you know what's going on, and he didn't address that. And for me, that was a huge no-no in terms of me wanting to even give any interest to that Kickstarter, because it's like, well, if he says he's being open, yet he's not talking about that, even though he did say we're not allowed to. That, for me, is the main concern. I mean, this is a guy who knowingly took code and used it and said that it was his own work when it wasn't.
And then sued Epic Games.
Yeah,
I think is the thing, is that one of the despicable parts of that. Yeah, I mean, they stole code so blatantly that even the original Epic sort of little junk tags that the programmers had left in there, they were in there. We've done this, we've covered this, and they got crushed.
But that's the thing.
Legal system for this.
That was the thing. Nothing was mentioned of this. Like, there wasn't even an apology or anything like that. I think the closest we got was, I've made some mistakes, and that was it. And as far as I'm concerned, that's not good enough. If he wants my money, I want an actual apology, or even kind of like, even if it still points him out to be the bad guy, him to say, this is why I did it. This is why I let it go on. But no, nothing of that sort. So why should I give him money in the first place for that? But also, as we pointed out, the past form has been horrible on his games, and therefore I wouldn't. And also on a personal note, I wasn't that interested in sort of like Eternal Darkness or anything else. So. Yeah, I mean, yeah, okay, I may not have been the target audience in the first place, but even so, even as a gesture of goodwill to say, I've got friends who want to see it get made and they want a bit of cash, and I'm like, oh yeah, here's $10 or whatever. No, I wouldn't even do that. I would not trust him to have my money.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I am literally the target audience for this. I had a GameCube, I was a Nintendo fanboy back in the day, I loved me a bit of Eternal Darkness. But it's important, and a bit of Twin Snakes, but it's important to note that both of those games were heavily influenced by a production team from another party. So in Twin Snakes' case, Koji Pro and Konami, and in the case of Eternal Darkness, Nintendo oversaw a lot of it as well.
And make no bones about it, Twin Snakes was essentially a port of an existing game, and they had fairly strong foundations to work on there.
Absolutely, but it was a good port though.
It was a very good port, yeah.
But since then, and Twin Snakes was 2004, Eternal Darkness 2002. That's a decade. That's over a decade since they've made a game we can point at and go, that was good. Diak's been a creative lead. He's been the creative lead for Silicon Knights, and that hasn't yielded the best output. And I'm genuinely worried, because they had partners back then, partners that could stop poor management and poor decisions being made, and sort of over-ambitious decisions being made that would perhaps screw up the sort of the cohesion of the game itself. Like, Too Human, I'm looking at you. But there's none of that. Precursor has 7 employees. They haven't even hired the staff yet. And it just seems too little after a lot of mediocrity and shady dealing.
Yes, and I also think that they're going to probably run into trouble securing alternate funding, because kind of Diak has a history of wasting Canadian government money and Activision money and Microsoft money. So, I think finding a shareholder could be a little bit dicey there. So, yeah, it's just a shame. The fact is, Diak had the opportunity to address all of these things months ago. He said in that video, I mean, I don't want to get back onto it really, but he said, I just didn't know it was a big deal. I didn't know people were taking it seriously. Yes, you did. Obviously you did. But journalists your phone must have been ringing off the hook with people asking you about this. And you've only come out for it now because you've realized that it's hurting your bottom line. And the thing is, I think one of the only ways Precursor can turn this round is for Diak to publicly distance himself from the project. I think whether or not he warrants a lot of the suspicion surrounding him, I think he's got to kind of fall on his sword here and say, look, I know this, I know I am the problem here. I'm going to go. And then, of course, he could do a UADA and just do freelance consulting on his own game after that.
That would be probably the best thing.
I think that would be absolutely the best thing they could do. I mean, I've got to be honest, I really feel like Precursor should just all go into his office and say, look, Dennis, sling your hook, mate. We'll hire you back on in some sort of freelance capacity. Everyone will get paid. This game will get made, and yeah, but I think they've left it too long to do that.
You see, the thing is as well, if they had sort of early on said, look, we don't necessarily like everything's still too fresh. We don't necessarily want all that associated with the Precursor name. So yeah, we're going to hire you on as a freelance basis. Then if Shadow of the Eternals came out and fucking was excellent, everyone would probably have forgotten. And then they could, he could come in through the front doors. Everything's wonderful, redeemed. All it takes is. Well, actually, all it would take is one good game. It's all about the games.
You're only as good as your last game. And yeah, yeah. And the problem is that it shouldn't work like that, but that is exactly how it works. So yeah, this could be the game, but I can't see them. I can't see them still raising the well over a million in the next 18 days without completely changing up the structure, without actually saying, oh no, it's not going to be episodic after all, it's going to be a game that's going to come out all at once. And I think the target was far too high, considering that they only should have asked for enough to make episode 1.
And also considering that the last game was X-Men Legends. Destiny, rather. Destiny, not Legends.
Yeah.
Destiny.
No, not Destiny. It wasn't that.
No, not Destiny.
No, X-Men Destiny.
No.
Take that out. Yeah, I mean, as you say, you're only as good as your last game, and it was so transparent, the relationship between the 7 employees of Precursor and Silicon Knights that that's tying into it. That it's just the bad smell from Silicon Knights is hanging over Precursor games.
It's toxic. And do you know what? I think there's a lot of sympathy out there for the developers of Silicon Knights. I think if they'd come out and said, look, if actually some of the developers come out and said, look, we've been trying to make good games, and some management decisions have been holding us back, and we just want to make this cool game for you guys, I think they could have done great. But yeah, I think Diac's got to get out now while the getting is bad, and maybe they could try and claw back some of this, or at least enough to launch, say, another smaller crowdfunding campaign for a much tighter first episode of a small, focused episodic season.
I don't really want to end there because that's kind of depressing and sad. So we're not going to end there. Kickstarter, related to Kickstarter and crowdfunding, Double Fine!
Yeah, they're kickstarting the bastard love child of Fire Emblem, XCOM, and Game of Thrones. So, yeah.
Cannot argue with that.
Highly designed for infinite replayability, loads of different factions, randomly generated content that sort of draws inspiration from roguelikes as well. I want this thing, and I'm sure you do as well. So go and check out they haven't even released Broken Age yet, and I still want this one. So go check it out. And also go and check out a game called God Factory Wingmen as well, because that game is a really, really awesome playing space combat MOBA that needs a little bit of help getting off the ground.
Yep.
So yeah, that's all for this week, guys. Thank you very much for listening. We'll catch you next time on the Game Buzz. Have a great weekend. Bye.
Bye.